What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Quarantine. I'm your host, Wolf, and war never changes. Today, we're going to take a look at This War of Mine, developed and published by 11-Bit Studios, available on PC, iOS, Android, OS X, and Linux. I myself am playing on PC, and I've logged about 5 or 6 hours into the game. Granted, it's not a whole lot, but it was enough for me to get a good idea of the game. Now, I do feel obligated to warn you guys this video will contain a very small spoiler of one of the events that happen in the game for me to explain the types of choices that you're going to be faced with, so you have been warned. It's nothing big, but it is a spoiler nonetheless. This War of Mine is a point-and-click survival game set in a modern wartime, but rather than playing as some super elite soldier that only you can save us, you play as a group of civilians trying to survive while the city you're in is under siege. You will constantly be struggling with medical supplies, lack of food, hostile scavengers that'll break into your place and steal your shit, snipers, oh the fucking snipers. The gameplay is controlled entirely by mouse, by clicking on contextual icons on screen to do whatever it is that icon is supposed to do, as you'll see from the video footage. The game progresses by like a day and night cycle, with about 15 minutes or so in each one. During the day, there are snipers that are outside that prevent you from leaving, so you take this time to maintain your survivors, upgrade your safe house, feed your guys, bandage them, the works. People may come by, I guess they were able to dodge the snipers, they come by trying to trade or might need help, and it's your call whether or not you help them or you turn them away. Either way, it's your call. I do have to say, one thing that really bothers me though when you're working on your hideout is once you place furniture, you don't seem to have the ability to move it. So if you just decide, all right, well, here's bedrooms, make things a little easier, everybody sleeps in the same area, but then later you think, well, these would work better over here, and let's put the cooking area down here. You can't move any of them, and it irritates the hell out of me. Now, at night, you have to tell your guys what to do by selecting him or her and telling them, scavenge, sleep, guard, sleep in bed, so on and so forth. If you select a person to scavenge, then you have to figure out where they're going to go. Each place has their own ups and downs. Now, you're always going to want to scavenge. If you can afford to send somebody out, as you're always going to be struggling for resources in this game. And missing a day really sucks. You really feel it. Then you have to ask yourself, do you loot places that are unowned? Or do you find places where other survivors might be at and steal their stuff? During war, there are no good or bad choices. There's just survival. It does a good job to show the darker side of humanity. Some of the things that you're willing to wind up doing because your guys are starving. It usually boils down to it's them or me, and then you wind up you find out that you're the bandit, not the other way around. It gets pretty dark. Now, every map seems to be the exact same, like the actual layout of the map, but item placements and events that can occur do seem to be very random. So even though the map screen says that this place has a lot of weapons, it may or may not. It just gives you an idea of what might be there. One issue I do have with the game is it is fun, it's very tense, but after playing through it 3 or 4 times, even failing, actually every one of those, the fact that the maps are exactly the same every time really takes a lot away from the game. I would like to see, if the devs continue to work on it in the future, some way to randomize the actual layout of, say, the school that you go to. Kind of change the way it is so it still feels new when you go there on a new playthrough. And then each survivor only has a finite carrying capacity, forcing you to have to make hard decisions sometimes. Bringing a weapon with you, Also another hard decision, as it takes up one of those very valuable slots. Now, the game so far has some pretty dark feels moments. Shit that actually happens in wartime that never gets reported or found out. And you have to choose how to go about dealing with these things. Now, that spoiler I talked about in the beginning, this is where it applies. The video that you're going to see behind shows uh, one of the events, for example. The first time I entered the grocery store, as I was in very dire need for food and medical supplies, and the map screen stated that this had a good chance to give me all of that. I start hearing talking behind the door directly in front of me. So I sneak up to the door, and after peering through what I'm assuming is a keyhole, I see a soldier in full battle rattle, rifle, whole 9 yards, talking to a female survivor. He's just trying to scavenge, looking for food or whatever, and he starts offering her food for, and I quote, a fun time. After she turns him down a couple times, he starts to use force, rifle butts her, and then takes her at gunpoint to a back room for whatever your imagination wants to think up. I stayed hidden, as him being armed and me with nothing, I wouldn't have stood a chance, and me dying is not going to serve anybody any good, or worse, for that matter. Now, the real me, I get pretty immersed into games, so I felt terrible for the girl and the fact that I just stood there and watched this poor girl, watch this happen to her. But so did the character, which is cool. The game is peppered with events like this that force you to make really tough decisions, moral choices, and ethical choices, all of which would affect you and your character. I saved the girl, though, on a later playthrough. I had died and wound up restarting, and I saved her, but it almost got me killed, and I was short one character for about 10 days due to injuries, which in this game makes it really, really tough. By the time she got back on her feet and was able to be used effectively, it was already pretty much game over for me because I was so far behind. We had so much crap going on. It was having one person down in this game sucks. The game overall, though, does a fantastic job of showing you the side of war that you don't see. The side of war of the innocent people, the innocent bystanders that are having to live through this hell. Call of Duty, has you rolling down a street with a tank just blasting the crap out of everything, and you never once think about the guy that lives in that house that did nothing wrong. This game does a pretty good job of portraying that, and I really like the narrative in it, the way it does it. Now, there is no actual story per se, aside from the beginning. The city's under siege. Um, things are scarce. There's snipers on the rooftops. Blah blah blah. But other than that, like the 5 characters, I think there are 4 or 5 total characters you can start with, anyways, have their own little opening story. Like, these guys knew each other. This girl was a reporter, so on and so forth. But it feels more like you make the story, and so again, it's also a really cool way to tell that story. The combat in the game works pretty much like everything else. Select the weapon on the left side of the screen, then click on the enemy. Big crosshair shows up over him. It's pretty simple. It works well enough. You could tell it's meant that it was originally designed with like mobile devices in mind, but again, it works well enough. The audio score in the game is pretty basic, but really well done to set the mood and tone of the game. I would have liked to have maybe had voice acting or something for a little bit more immersion, but I mean, what can you do? The audio works good enough. Overall, should you buy this War of Mine? Honestly, the game's gonna set you back about $20 as of now. And yeah, it's well worth it. I do hope the devs continue to support the game, maybe add some new content for the few things that are, irritating. For example, walking downstairs is a solid animation, so if you walk down the stairs, there's a dude at the end of the hall with a gun. Granted, he's going to wait until you're done with the animation of walking down the stairs and then immediately blast you away, but things like that were really annoying. So I really hope they continue to support the game, add new content. But as of now, yes, it's a fantastic game. To top it off, from what I've read on numerous forums, apparently the devs uploaded a torrent of the game online. That way, people who generally pirate games can play it, in hopes that they like the game and they respect that the devs did that enough to go out and pay the money for the game. And personally, I think that's a pretty bro dev, in my opinion. I do want to apologize for anybody who subscribed to me or anything, that my review for Tales of Hearts R is taking a lot longer than expected. Due to a popular vote from a previous video, the straw poll, I'm gonna I'm gonna beat the game 100%. Well, not 100%, but I'm at least gonna beat the main story before I review the game. The exception to this is going to be if a game I'm going to review happens to be awful, or I just get tired of playing it, don't really want to play it anymore, which will be included into the game as, into the review. Or if I just don't like the game after, say, 5 or 10 hours. If that does happen, I will, of course, state in the beginning of the video that I didn't beat it and how many hours I logged into it, so you can take the review with a grain of salt at that point. This has all been kind of an evolving process of how I'm going to do things. The problem with this, though, is until I get to the point where I can get early review copies of games, which if and when I ever get to that point, it's going to take a while for reviews to come out on newer games, because I have to wait until it's released, buy it, or until I wait till it releases, wait till I can afford to buy it, then review it when and if I ever actually beat the damn thing. I will link that same poll in this review as well, so if you could please give your feedback to that. This is an evolving process here. Once I get it to the point where I like it, then we'll kind of go from there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you could like, comment, subscribe as usual, and I will see you next time in the quarantine.